Well, hi there. I have some sad news about Gus Gus. He has passed away, and I miss him very much. He was very special to me, and I know that he is very special for many of you as well. People have come here to Clint's Reptile Room from all over the world to meet him. He is the main animal that people ask about by name when they visit from far away. And it's been hard these last few days having to break the news to the people that come hoping to get a chance to see those big chubby cheeks of pure muscle. I'm so sad. But I want to take a moment to tell you the whole story of my time with Gus Gus. And I would love to hear your favorite Gus Gus memories as well. So I first saw Gus Gus on a classified ad someone had taken out. They'd taken very good care of him, but I think they were quickly realizing that a Tegu was going to be a much more serious lizard than they would be able to deal with long term. I'd long had an appreciation for Tegus, but in many ways I thought of them as being a less monitor looking alternative to monitors that could drop their tails. Though Gus Gus would completely change my opinion about that. We'd been living in a 2-bedroom apartment where we would not have had space for our kids and a Tegu. But at this time, we had just moved into my in-laws' house for what was supposed to be a year and a half while they were serving a mission in the Philippines. I was still in graduate school, though I had just gotten what I thought was my dream job, teaching full-time at Utah Valley University. And we were hoping that when my in-laws returned, we would be able to buy our first home. So for the first time, getting a Tegu was a possibility. And for some reason, he just stayed on my mind. The main thing holding me back was just not wanting to have to tell Leisha that I wanted to spend a bunch of money on a giant lizard that I wanted to live in our house. Leisha was tolerant of my love for reptiles, but I knew that there had to be some limit to her tolerance. And a giant lizard with nearly 4 times the bite force of a Komodo dragon seemed like a reasonable limit to that tolerance. So I didn't ask. But at that time, her brother Tanner, my friend through whom I first met Leisha, was just starting a new job teaching junior high science, and he wanted a classroom pet lizard. He came to me for recommendations. Now keep in mind, this was more than a year before we created our first video, so not as many people came to me about questions like this at that time. Now a Tegu is not my first recommendation for someone seeking a pet lizard, and I told him as much. But I also told him that I knew of an amazing Tegu that needed a good home. And though he was pretty far away, near Salt Lake City, we were planning to go to the zoo with Tanner and his family, and so he said he wanted to go. So I set up an appointment, and Leisha, Tanner, and I went to meet Gus Gus for the first time. I do want to point out the shirt I was wearing the day I first met Gus Gus. This was just a couple of hours before our first meeting. Remember, this channel wouldn't exist for another year and a half. That's Clint's Reptile Parties, the place where this all began. And very much the beginning of what is now Clint's Reptile Room. I really do wonder if any of this would exist today without Gus Gus, but I'll get to that. Anyway, after the zoo, we got to meet his Royal Gusserton for the first time. He was so wonderful. Just an adorable little love. Not a baby, but nowhere near fully grown either. These pictures aren't from that day, but they are from just a couple of months later. But he was so sweet. He really had been well taken care of, and I fell in love immediately. But maybe not as hard as Leisha did. She told me, I want him. She's told me this a few other times since then, but it had never happened before that. She was absolutely head over heels for Gus Gus. And it wasn't going to take much to convince me that it was a good idea. But I wasn't the one that had gone to see if I wanted him. Tanner had. And after playing with him for a few more minutes, we stepped outside with Tanner to find out his thoughts. And his thoughts were very sane. He wasn't sure that this was the right lizard for him, but he also wasn't sure that he wanted to walk away. So I told him, I tell you what, we want him, for sure. But we came here for you, so why don't you go ahead and get him, and if you decide that he's too much lizard for you, we'll buy him from you for what you pay for him here. He agreed, and a couple of months later, he was ours. Tanner is actually the one who named him Gus Gus. And it was just such a perfect name that it had to stay. So Gus Gus became a Laidlaw. We got him in November, so for the winter, he was a purely indoor Tegu and an absolute gem. A little puppy dog. But the first time I took him outside, I realized that I'd forgotten something really important about lizards. Many lizards see more colors than we do. They often see ultraviolet light, which is something that doesn't pass through glass or come from standard indoor light bulbs. And this is important because it means that unless you regularly enter their enclosures, your pet lizards have probably never seen you with ultraviolet light on you. Almost every time I take a bearded dragon outside for the first time in the spring, they go into a major defensive display when they first see me as the ultraviolet monster. Well, once spring came, I finally had a chance to take a now somewhat larger Gus Gus outside for the first time. And the moment we crossed from indoors to outdoors, he saw a creature that looked nothing like anything he'd ever seen before. And it had him. So from a position about like this, right at face height, he turned around and went straight for my terrifying UV-colored face. So I quickly set him down, at which point he got up on 2 legs like Tyrannosaurus Rex and ran at me with his mouth open. I grabbed a pillow that was on our porch and held it between us. He grabbed that, pulled it out of my hand, shook it and threw it, and everything after that is a blur. Somehow I got him back into the house. I don't know if he chased me into the house or how we got back into the house, but as soon as we got there, he was like, "Hey, did you see that thing out there? I think I scared it away for you." So the next time I needed to take him outside, I brought him out in a locked box. I cracked the box open and he lost his mind, and I just closed the box and took him back inside. But the next time that I needed to take him outside, I brought him out in the box again and I opened it and he was just like, "Hey." He'd finally figured out that the crazy UV monster was just me. He was very smart. I'll talk more about that in a minute. But this is the first time I ever took him outside without him trying to kill me. And this is the first video of Gus Gus that I ever put on YouTube, before this channel even existed. And I think it's kind of fun to just listen to me talk about the experience I just explained, but right after it had happened. This is the first time I've had him outside without him going ballistic. The first couple times I took him outside, his personality changed completely. He's normally like a puppy dog, but as soon as we got outside, as soon as we walked through the door, he opened his mouth, turned around, I set him down. He was leaping through the air with his mouth open, trying to get a hold of me. I had to corral him into a container with a pillow that I had that was just there by me, and he would grab that out of my hands and shake it. And today I built this harness for him. I went and bought some harnesses, but they weren't quite the right size, so I wound up making this one myself. Took him outside, and he acts just like he does when he's indoors. He's just calm as can be. I thought that was going to be the end of Gus Gus attacking people, but I was wrong. And Penny's baby doll, Baby K, was the first of his victims. I didn't catch the beginning of this savage attack, but it was truly the best part. Gus was just exploring the house when he stumbled onto Kay, grabbed her by the head, and began thrashing her violently. And the thing that made it so amazing, well, other than the ease with which he crushed her head, was the fact that Baby K was a doll that would cry when squeezed or thrashed violently by a lizard with razor blade teeth and bone-splintering jaw strength, apparently, because she was crying hysterically for all of the first part of this attack, and it was legendary. I'll be honest, when watching this attack, I thought that Baby K's head must be pretty soft. But once she was released by the beast, I tried to squeeze that head with my hand. It was almost like a tennis ball. His jaws were just insanely strong. And he hadn't even developed the enormous jowly jaw muscles that he would have once he was fully grown, with a bite force that I would go on to feel firsthand in the not-so-distant future. Gus Gus would go on to become the star of Clint's reptile parties. He became very trustworthy. This video of a 2-year-old Penny taking him for a walk will forever be one of my favorite things. I'm so grateful that it was immortalized as one of our first ever shirts. I mean, could anything get cuter than that? Of course, he would go on to bite 5 people. Not counting me, but I'll start with me. Once we got past the UV monster phase, the only other time that Gus Gus was scary was when food was involved. A monster. Tyrannosaurus Rex food monster every time you went to the enclosure. Getting his food bowl out so you could feed him was always an event. Fortunately, Gus Gus was a little bit smarter than I am. Often when I was feeding him, I would be holding a yellow can in my hand, and he noticed this pattern. He became very fixated on the can. And once I finally noticed that about him, I began using this fixation to my advantage. First, I just held it to the glass on the other side of the enclosure so I could pull out his food bowl. But after a while, I started to use it very deliberately as a target, showing it to him whenever I fed him and never at any other time. Soon, he stopped associating me with food and began associating the can with food instead. And he was delightful all of the time. I later switched to using this temperature gun as the target, and then to this target that Leisha made for me to use here at Clint's Reptile Room. We actually made a video all about it. We've been getting some kind of mixed reviews about Teespring lately, and we really liked a lot of things about Teespring, so we're going to keep our Teespring store up. However, we're also going to put this shirt up on Fourthwall, so if you've been having trouble with Teespring or you just like Fourthwall better, we'll have a link down in the description if you want to get your own Pennywalks Gus Gus t-shirt. But I escaped being bitten because I was the UV monster, and I escaped being bitten because I was the food target. So how did I feel the actual strength of his jaws? Well, I took him to a presentation I was doing at a police station for the police officers and their families. And when I had him out, one of the kids threw his shoe to Gus Gus. And he's so much like a dog, he started playing with it. He wasn't treating it like food, just like a toy, kind of like he did with baby K. But I knew that if he did try to swallow it, that it was going to be a major emergency. So I thought I'd better get it away from him. And he was pretty good about letting me have it, but you could tell that he was like, but I still want to play with shoes though. And I had shoes on that day, and he noticed that about me, and he was like, I'm going to play with those shoes. And he can run on two legs like Tyrannosaurus Rex, but he was just walking up to me like, this is going to happen. Now, fortunately, I had on those indestructible shoes. You know, the ones with steel toes and nail-proof soles. So I was feeling pretty good about my shoes. And when he got to me, I just held up my foot so that the nail-proof sole was between he and I. But I forgot how wide Tegus can open their mouths, almost straight up and down. So he just walked up and went, "Nomph." Now, I knew that he wasn't going to bite through a nail-proof sole. But he was pushing so hard on my foot, I really didn't know how much more my foot could handle before it would just double over on itself. And when he finally let go, he left gouges in the nail-proof soles. That's how strong his jaws were and how sharp his teeth. And the good news is that he was a total sweetheart. So under normal circumstances, I never really worried about him biting anybody. Though the first time it happened, didn't really come as a big surprise. I took him to a school, and we were going to do a presentation in the library. And before the students got there, the librarian wanted to see him. So I got him out, and immediately she just did this to him. And he bit her. I really don't know what else she thought could possibly happen. It was like she woke up that day and she was like, how do I get bitten by everything today? Oh, I know exactly what I'll do. I'm just going to stick my hand right into the mouth of everything I come across. And so I really didn't worry about it too much. I mean, what are the odds that I would ever find anybody that dumb again? But then it happened again 2 more times in exactly the same way. And the good news is the other 2 people are people that I know pretty well. One of them is my neighbor, who's a biologist, though he's a botanist. So. And the other one is my wonderful wife, Leisha. Now, both of these people are generally, they're pretty smart people. And I know them both well enough that I could be like, why would you stick your hand into his mouth? And they both told me exactly the same thing. They both said, well, he's so much like a dog that I wanted to let him smell me. And that is the moment that I learned 2 important things. I learned why people kept sticking their hands into his mouth. And I also learned why 4.5 million Americans get bitten by dogs every year. Because apparently, we have a game called Punch or Not that we play with every dog we come up to. And the thing is that at least a dog has 2 forward-facing eyes, so it can at least tell that it is you fake punching it in the face. Gus's eyes were on the side of his head. So when something came flying into his face, he couldn't see exactly what it was. Just something that he kind of catches out of the corner of his eye, flying directly into his face. And when you're a Tegu and something comes flying into your face, it's either something coming to kill you or something you could eat. So what do? Well, you bite it and figure out which one it is later. And that's exactly what he did. And he didn't bite as hard as he could, just an experimental bite, but his teeth were like razor blades, so even a little nip could be pretty nasty. And so that explains 3 bites. But I did say 5. Even though after those 3, I learned that I needed to tell people not to put their hands into his mouth, and so it never happened to a guest ever again. And our team members here at Clint's Reptile Room need to pass a rather intensive training before they were supposed to mess with him in any way at all. But 2 of them decided to give it a go without any training, so now the number is 5. One of them received the worst bite of all. He said it felt like Gusgus was going to break his arm, and given what I felt on my foot, I totally believe that. But other than these few mistakes that humans made with him, Gusgus was a total sweetheart. He visited thousands of kids and adults as part of Clint's Reptile parties, and later as a representative of Clint's Reptile Room, and at our summer camps, Clint's Reptile Academy. In fact, he was just at our camps a few weeks ago. It's really hard to believe he's gone. But he was just being himself, enjoying the sun, and being the absolute legend that he was. I love him so much. And of course, the way he probably touched the most people was right here as the absolute star of our channel. When fans of our channel have come here from far away, they almost, without exception, ask if they can see Gus Gus. And he was always happy to oblige. He made so many memorable appearances in our videos, and the occasional comical mess of our studio. 3 of our 6 most viewed videos of all time feature Gus Gus in a prominent role. The first video that ever showed Gus Gus is possibly the most important video we've ever made. When we started this channel, we started it with the top 5 reptiles for beginners. He was not on that list for reasons that probably don't need a lot of explanation. But our vision for the whole channel was to make some videos about those 5 animals and then be done. But we'd received so much positive feedback from you guys that we thought, well, let's keep it going. And so we released a second top 5 video, which was the top 5 lizards. And when we did that, I remember first video that ever shows Gus Gus. It had the best day our channel ever had. It was the most popular video we'd ever launched. And the next morning I woke up and overnight it had just gotten a ton of views. And I was thinking, oh my goodness. Like, this is for real. You know, we hadn't ever had another video get quite the same response as our first video had. This one did, and then more, just waves more, you know, and it always kind of seemed like when that first video stopped getting a lot of views, well, that was going to be kind of the end of this. When this happened, it totally changed our channel forever, and allowed us to start making steps towards what the channel is today. I dare say, without Gus Gus, Clint's Reptiles might have stopped making videos 7 years ago, and I'm just so grateful to him for that. Tegus often received bad press, but he was an unbelievable ambassador of his species. And I think the world is a little bit less amazing without him in it. My family has really taken his loss pretty hard. He was such an important part of our lives. And we really just didn't see it coming. Though I often see expected lifespans of 15 to 20 years, I've personally never heard of a Tegu anywhere near that old. And about a year ago, I remember looking at him and thinking, I guess it could happen at almost any time. But I hope that we had a few more good years together. And though it can be nice to have some warning that the end is near, in some ways, it is sweet that he was just himself up until the very end. Just being a good boy. And I'm so sorry that I have to share this news with you. But I know that you loved him too. So you deserve to know. And thank you for that. Thank you for loving him. Now let's end with a little montage of wonderful Gus Gus moments. I'll miss you, buddy. As always, like and subscribe, and we hope to see you real soon. Appreciate that train for waiting.
It's perfect timing.
His big jowls. People would often comment on how fat they were. I'm like, well, they're fat like Arnold Schwarzenegger's thighs are fat. You know, like he's
Oh, wait, one more question. Argentine or Argentine?
the world may never know.